So for my takeaways for chapters 8 to 13, first off, genuinely the huge advancement of rhythm and lyricism in American music, with people like Jerome Kern really pushing forth what Gilbert and Sullivan did. He was inspired by Gilbert and Sullivan, pushing forth that conversational style of lyricism, also playing with rhythm, but really making the conversational style a core of musical theater music. And then also the advancement in lyricism playing with rhythm, like with the Gershwins, with Fascinating Rhythm, pushing it past the straight, stuck in the beat kind of lyricism that didn't play with anything. And all of that is to say, it comes from jazz. It came from jazz in the jazz age. And where that jazz came from, same place that ragtime came from, was Black people. So that is another huge takeaway for me, is the cultural interplay that was happening in the 1920s between Black culture and like the Harlem Renaissance and this rise of jazz music and white audiences was fundamental to the creation of music as we know it, not just in musical theater, but in American history, and really how fundamental musical theater history is to American music, period. Um, and it is also, the sobering realization that Black people did change music forever, but the Harlem Renaissance faded, and who became famous? Irving Berlin. Who became famous? Ira and George Gershwin. Who became famous? Jerome Kern. And it wasn't always the Black artists that became the symbol of America the same way that they did. And that is another one of my takeaways, is how the music of the 1920s really was this crystallization of, to steal a little bit of the phrasing from the documentary, the first occurrence of an American language for music, because prior to this it had really been just elaborating on and taking from and translating what was happening in Europe. That's what we were interested in. That was our language for music, but it didn't fit who we were as a country. So it was this changing culture, this changing dynamic where it's like, okay, what we want on stage is something that fits our country. It is not just like the same operettas like Merry Widow and just like translating that. It is this new innovative language that was made by the people who live here and breathe here and make art here. Then that another America is a huge part of my takeaways. Another part, another takeaway that has to do with it, is Cinderella stories. I was familiar with the film Ella Cinders, and I didn't know how popular those stories were on Broadway. And I think they do demonstrate in a similar vein, a changing taste. It is it's a prosperity gospel, which is a huge part of the American ethos. It's like, you could move up. American dream, social mobility, you can move up and reach this state of prosperity, which is also requiring this exchange and interaction between poor and rich, haves and have-nots, which wasn't really a character trait of operettas by Gilbert and Sullivan, where the point was to solidify and reassert oh, she's marrying the right person, don't worry, it's ending with the correct marriage, don't worry. But the last one is, I guess it's, it's all American history, but there was a quote on page 158 about how someone's big solo in a show was a tongue-twisting list of dozens of kinds of pie, and I wrote down simpler times. And I think it was. I think that those trying, in pushing and playing with lyrics, was the novelty and the excitement in and of itself. So it didn't even need to be that deep or cool. But it made me think of The Secret Life of Walter Mitty with Danny Kaye. He has a patter song in there that I've read the critical reviews of, And they always talked about, oh, Sylvia Fine's score for The Secret Life of Walter Mitty is forgettable. It's just like, it's just a dumb patter song. And it made me think, reading this chapter and that quote, I'm like, oh, her song would have killed in the 1920s. And so it's amazing how, see, this is a lyrical advancement. This is all timely in that it's pushing, but it's like the push is, that's what makes it interesting. That's what makes it interesting, is the fact that it hadn't been done before. By the 1950s, it's already rote, it's already trite, it's already like done, and that's not entertaining anymore. So it does remind you of how much has like potential to be revived, like Showboat, but also how much was really situated in the times just because it hadn't been done before, which doesn't make it not worth anything, but it is something to keep in mind. So I'm already a minute over. I tried to scale it down. Done.